Hello there, this is D, and welcome to Uneven. It is, I think, a Wednesday. And I am coming to you back home in Colorado. I wanted to close out the Arizona road trip. I hadn't had a chance to do this. It's actually probably about a month later. I can't believe it. It's been almost a month since we've got home. And I know I was talking about recording every week or every day for a while, or not every day, but a couple times a week. But I wanted to close out this road trip. Something happened, and it forced me to kind of take a little hiatus again, at least to figure some things out. So, Arizona road trip. My wife and I had a good time. To recap really quickly, at a 55 plus RV community down in Mesa, Arizona. Went down there for a week. Her folks live in a unit down there, and we rented a unit which is like a real small single wide trailer kind of thing, stationary, but it's where a lot of RVs are there, but then they also have these little stationary units. They call them park models. And we stayed down there, rented one of those for the week, and hung out with them and did things around there and had a really good time. Did a lot of stuff. Fortunately, at the tail end, I caught a respiratory virus of something. I don't know if it was RSV, COVID, head cold, what they call, I think, desert fever. I'm not sure what it is, but it was something, and it lingered. In fact, I still have a touch of it still right now. But overall, I'm getting better out of the cough and drainage and everything. But we were coming home, stopped in Santa Fe for the night, and the next morning I had a text from a friend. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here because I've covered it on the other podcast, on the Benzo Free podcast, if you want to hear it. But I learned that a friend of mine, a good friend, had passed away. A good friend and colleague who I'd been working with for 5 years. It was sudden, did not expect this coming. It was really hard. All the factors were really hard to absorb what happened. And that's all I'm going to say. But I had to process that. And that's why I haven't been on here for a while. I needed time just to step away and just deal with that. And I could have definitely come on here, and I want to share those kinds of things with you, but I also felt it was going to be really negative, and I don't want to get that dark and that negative about things. And also, there's things I just, out of respect for the family, I didn't want to turn it into a podcast. I just think that was the right thing to do. So I did finally record one podcast in appreciation of her, of this friend that I lost. But that's on the Benzo Free because she was actually a guest on that show at one point with me too. So, but over here, I just want to talk about the Arizona trip and how things closed out. Anyway, I got back and I needed to process that. That on top of lost a lot of people over the last 2.5 years, both my parents, my dog, 2 cousins, and now a good friend. And that's a lot in a short period of time, and I needed to process that and also recover and just take care of myself and take some downtime. So I did that. But really quickly, and I'm going to keep this one short, I just wanted to look back on the Arizona road trip and have this episode to close it out because it was a good trip for me. We went down there and spent, a week at a 55 plus RV community. And it kind of gave you a glimpse into retirement, what retirement can be. And this was an amazing place where everybody was very active and there were so many things to do. And most people were probably 70s, I would say, on average, probably 70s on average at this place. Maybe, even though it's 55 plus, there weren't a lot of people my age since I'm just over that. But most people were probably 65 to 85, in that range. But I was amazed at how active they were and how many things they did and how many people were out. I'd walk out of our place and go to the community center, and we're already doing yoga and swimming laps and everything in the morning at, 6:30 a.m. as I'm walking around recording a podcast episode for you. And I'm just amazed at the vibrancy at this facility. And I realized that the juxtaposition of that community and then my parents, and my dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's about 9 years before he passed. My mom was taking care of him. even before that, they kind of became hermits in the house and just stayed in the house and weren't doing much. My dad would just, after he retired, became a couch potato and wasn't doing much outside of home. And just, you just kind of saw their world get smaller and smaller and smaller. And then to see a different group of people, and while they have maybe more means than my parents didn't have much money at all. So, but still, this was not an expensive place. It was moderate. Most of these people just had RVs and don't have homes and just bought the RV and travel in that, and they stay at this place. But it's not a real expensive place. It's just a very active place. But still, to see that choice of how we live, and do we just sit around and kind of let the world get smaller, which I do somewhat in my life right now because I'm kind of isolated here at home with just my wife and dog, and there's wonderful things about that, and wonderful, not putting that down. But one of the reasons I do road trips so often is that's my way of getting out there and staying active and doing things. And I thought it was good to see this community. I mean, I could see myself in 10 years or something, and my wife and I go in and wind up a community like that. Maybe not Mesa. I'm not a big, well, the weather down there in the winter is beautiful. It's like mid-70s. I also like my seasons, and I would miss some snow and colder weather sometimes. But anyway, I'm just amazed that how much I realized again, life is what we make it. And we can let life's circumstances dictate who we are. And I could have let the benzos, benzodiazepine dependence that I got caught up in, all the changes and the neurological limitations I still have, dictate who I am. But I don't want that life, and I want to keep trying for other things, and I want to expose myself to different people. I mean, not in the expose myself to different people. That can come across wrong. But I want to expose myself to ways of living and other ways that people are. And watching how that group of people lived was wonderful. It was such a positive experience. Most people down there were so positive and happy. I mean, I'm sure there's other things going on behind the scenes, but they had, playing cards at night, and they were listening to live music every night. They had by the pool and this bar and grill they have there in the complex. They had live music every night. It was just, and this is what they do. And we played pickleball for the first time, playing pickleball with my aunt, my wife's aunt, and down there, and doing that like 2 days in a row, and how my aunt blew us away because, and she's in her 80s, and it was just, and yet, we were new to pickleball, so that's part of it, but also just how active they were and how much they were still doing and how much they were still living. And how wonderful that was. And it was good to see there's a different way. And it in part, I felt, again, sorrow for my parents and how things ended up. And I wonder if I could have done something else, how we beat ourselves up about this stuff. But how that wound up, and how that wound up so horribly in the end. Versus this, and how these people decided to make this part of their life better. And I thought that was a good lesson. And I think that's the lesson from the road on this trip was, I have a say in how I age, how I feel when I age, what I do as I age. I have a say in this. And now's the time to be thinking about that. I think that's a good reminder for all of us, that we have a say in how we live. Now, some people say we don't because there's no free will, and that's a whole other conversation for another time. In fact, one I think we should talk about on here because I think it's quite interesting. But let's say that we have some free will. Let's say that we believe, because I think that's the only way you can go through life, is to have some faith that you have some free will. then what do you do with that? What are you doing with that? I think that's the question. Okay, I'm going to cut this right now. That's wrapping up the Arizona road trip. I'm back in Colorado right now. I've been here for a while, back home, back into a groove. I'm doing a little better now after, the loss of my friend and everything like that, and trying to get back up to speed. So, y'all take care. I'm going to talk to you real soon. Bye now.
Hey, this is Dee. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out our podcast. I do need to remind everyone that this podcast is for informational purposes only and should never be considered medical, psychological, or professional health advice of any kind. If you or someone you know is dealing with significant mental health issues, please seek professional help. Resources can be found in our show notes and on our website at unevenpodcast.com. Take care of yourself, and I'll catch you on the flip side.